What's up, peoples? It is your host, Ephraim Lozada. I'm here with Mr. Jojo. You're watching Know Your Worth TV, and I'm excited. I'm excited. I don't even know how many interviews I've done with the Content Creators Experience, but all these are nominees that you're really able to see in person June the 28th. You got to be at this show. The energy, the creativity, all the creators are going to be there. Um, it's going to be a night to just remember because you have all types of backgrounds. You have photographers, videographers, you have fashion bloggers, you have designers, you have content creators. I mean, you have a little bit of everything in the room in one place. So just imagine the network that is going to be happening that day, June 20th. If you don't want to miss it, go ahead and get your tickets at contentcreatorsexp.com. You can also follow their social media for more information at Content Creators EXP. However, this is about Jojo and his story. So, Mr. Jojo, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, man. I'm so excited. We did off air, and Evelyn did tell me this is your first conversation, as I love to say. So we're just having a conversation, man. No stress on it. You got this, and this is your story. So we're just going to talk about how you got into this industry and really what that passion was behind it. So first, let's start off. You are a photographer. Do you do photographer and videography, or just strictly photography?
I do strictly photography. I mean, videography is it's got my interest, but it's just kind of outside of my bubble as far
Okay.
as how much time I can put into it. So I just
Okay.
focus primarily on photography.
Okay, perfect. So when it comes to photography, what kind of style do you have? Everyone has their own style of photography. What is your style?
If I was going to say it was kind of a style, I would say it's a more candid approach because I feel that people relax a little bit more when you just treat it like if it's not really a camera in front of them because you try to get an average person to pose and they turn into a brick and they don't know how to get about it, especially if you look at like a maternity shoot or anything like that where you obviously have someone who's very pregnant and then you have their partner who's not exactly excited about the experience, so it's just getting people to relax and get into it. And then with the candid, I think it gives a lot more natural feel.
Okay. And do you have like you love to do more some people like to do like maternity shoots. What's your type of shoot? In studio, out of studio?
I would say out of studios, my preference of the two, if it was going to be one or the other. Again, I just like a more natural setting. Again, with studios, it can be very rigid. So I again prefer to be natural.
Okay. And do you do a lot of maternity, or do you do a lot of maybe updates for like headshots? Where is your, I would say, niche,
Um, I
or do you
would
not have
say
one
I
yet?
do a little bit of everything just because of obviously with work you kind of do what pays. As of late, I've had more on the private side as far as maternity or couple shoots and engagement, things like that. Again, that just kind of pays the bills, as they say.
Yeah, yeah.
I do like portrait shooting and things like that. I do love long exposure. It's just hard to do, obviously, with a model. So it's more on my own time.
Copy. All right, nice. And what got you into photography?
Uh, the long story would be that I was adopted when I was about three, almost four. So I have no baby photos. So when I had my kids, my focus with it was having photos of my kids. So I was one of those dads that just grabbed the camera. They did this, take a photo. They did that, take a photo. I probably annoyed everybody around me, but if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have any photos of my kids when they were small. But that started it. And then I started shooting graffiti in Wynwood and things like that. And then I got invited to a photography meetup and it went really well. And the feedback that I got on it was a lot better than I thought. So I
Yeah.
started progressing from there.
What a
So that's
story.
it went from one all the way
Wow.
to the other.
Yeah, that is a good story. I'm adopted as well, so that was very an amazing story, as I might say. And I'm happy that you were able to in life we go through some situations, but you found the positive in it. ideally? Like, all right, well, I can do this, so I'm gonna do this for my kids. So I love it. That's dope. And we'll get into part of that story in just a little bit. But all right, so you were really doing photography already, just not with people. You were just doing it
Yeah,
maybe as a hobby. Is that what it was?
yeah, it was just kind of something that piqued my interest. And again, having something frozen in a frame was always something. Even when I was little, I loved doing it, just because I liked how I have a pretty good memory, and
Mm-hmm.
it's semi photographic, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
But to share that and have it like on print the same way that I saw it was always very interesting to me. So I like sharing it.
So
As my wife says, like I have stacks of photos all over the house. So my studio ran out of space, so I can't print or put up my art anymore because there's no more space.
um, so in reality, you always had this talent, and it took somebody to, or people, not just one person, but took individuals to kind of allow you to know, like, man, you're really good, and that's when you decided to really tap into something and hone in on it. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been the type that's pretty critical of myself. I played
Mm-hmm.
sports, I played collegiate football for a little bit. So I've always been very critical of myself with different things. So I may think it's meh, and then someone else will go, no, no, that's really good. And I've kind of needed that. And my wife has been the biggest like kick in the butt as far as that goes, because she's
Mm-hmm.
like, you can't overanalyze everything you do. You just got to do it and then figure it out as you go.
So, how many years you said in total? I know you told me off camera, but for those that are watching, how many years in total do you have doing photography?
Taking photos of people in that regard, probably 2, 3 years. Taking it serious.
Yeah. Wow. But you've been
I'm
doing
new
this
to it.
really your whole life.
Yeah.
Who would have known, huh? Do you ever think it was never something that you even imagined, right? You just love to do it and then said, you know what? I guess I am good. Let me turn this into a business.
I
Is
mean,
that
it
how
was,
that happened for you?
for me, I've always had kind of an artistic mind. I just didn't know how to put it into something. With photography, it's one way, and then with like my art, that's the other. And again, it's something that I just kind of stumbled into it, just trying to give myself something to do as a hobby, and then it progressed from there. And again, it was input that kind of confirmed, yeah, this is something to do.
How did you get into that the meet that you were invited to? How did that happen?
It was actually a little brother of a friend of mine that I went to high school with, and I had started doing photos, and I had made my Instagram page, and I mean, I left up those photos if you go far enough back, and it's just photos of the beach, buildings, just random things, and again, just in conversation, my friend's little brother was like, "Hey, I'm gonna be a part of this meetup. If you want to come hang out, bring your
Mhm.
camera, see how it goes, and go from there." And again, that's what started it.
The rest is history. Here you are 3 years later, just enjoying every little bit of it. That is so cool, man. What an interesting story, and there's so much more to come, right? You're only really, heavy into this with your all 3 years. Just imagine when you put a little bit more years into it, that you'll be in a
Yeah.
place where not even you imagined, right? Especially being a little kid, just taking
I mean,
photography, being a little adopted kid,
I
right?
didn't think I'd ever be here and have being nominated for anything. It's extremely surreal to me, and it takes the people around me to kind of say, "Yeah, that's real. That's something you're doing."
Sometimes. Yeah. So when you think about, so do you think it's more that you just didn't have the confidence to go all in? Is that correct?
I mean, with certain situations that I've had to go through, is the best way to put it. That I've
Yeah.
been very hesitant to just pull the trigger and go full on into it. And again, photography as a whole is extremely expensive.
Mhm.
So I'm a father of three. I was an early dad, and situations in regards to that have been very costly.
Mhm.
So to go full on into photography was very big, and it took my wife saying, "Yeah, Joe, you can do it. Just buy this or get that," or she'd even buy me lenses for my birthday because I'm one of those people that I can't buy anything for myself.
Yeah.
My wife, on the other hand, is the opposite, where she can buy whatever. Like, oh, we have the money, we can go buy it.
Yeah, yeah.
But
You
she's
only
the
live
one
once,
that,
she says, right? That's her motto. You only
yeah,
live once.
she's the boss, as I say. So I always tell people, I'm like, oh, I just have to confirm with my boss, and then I'll let you know.
That's cool, man. So she's been very supportive. And what do your kids think about it?
My kids have been my starting models. So at this point, one is 18, 15, and 12. So they've been modeling for me since they were little. So they they look at it as kind of like, all right, this is just Poppy doing something.
Yeah.
My middle daughter is the one that's kind of caught the eye and sees what I do, and she thinks it's really cool. My oldest just thinks I'm a nerd.
Yeah. They're at that age, right? 18 years
Yeah, I
old, they're
mean, 18,
grown.
she sees the world and she's like, I know what I'm doing. I'm like, okay, good.
Yeah. They're gonna live and they're gonna learn, right? One way or the other. Now that's cool, man. So when it comes to your your story, and you don't have to go into detail if you don't want to, but you think that was possibly something that kind of held you back from reaching heights that you're in today?
I think if certain experiences happened at different points, it probably would have been a quicker journey. But again, I'm very put others first and then me.
Hmm.
So at certain points, I may have sacrificed certain choices. And then in hindsight, I'm kind of like, I should have done this or I should have done that. But I'm
Yeah.
not one that kind of just lives in it. I
Hmm.
make the choice and whatever comes of it comes of it. Um, Again, my upbringing made me very critical of myself. So I second guess myself constantly. And that's something that I've learned to get better at with just input and other, just working on it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No worries. Do you have a good, other than your wife and your three kids, do you have other friends that are very supportive in the journey that also push you up?
I probably would say that I have like three or four friends that have been very, very supportive of me. And one of them being probably one of my best friends from high school. She's modeled for me a couple times and put faith in my work. And again, I just kind of like, oh, I can take a photo. I don't know that you'll enjoy it. She's like, no, come on, let's do it. And she'd pay me for shoots when I was just kind of like, yeah, I'll do it for free. She's like, no, no, I'll pay you. And I've had friends like that that really built up my confidence in my work because it having somebody put their money into what you do shows a lot more than them saying, "Oh yeah, your work is great," and then nothing ever comes of it, or they ask for a discount or something like
Mhm.
that. When a friend really pays the full price and supports what you do, it gives you that extra confidence in what you're doing.
Absolutely. No, I love it. And it's important to have those type of people, right? Those, while they don't even realize it, what it does for you internally to be like, oh my God, like if you
Yeah.
see it in me, I need to see it in myself, type of deal. So that's truly, truly amazing. Um, Man, this is cool. I love the story, especially when I hear someone else that is adopted. So did you end up adopted, or did you have to go into a group home and get adopted out of a home? How did that look like for you? Was that like?
So I believe around one and a half, maybe two, I wound up in the foster care system. And from what I've learned, obviously over the years, there was three of us. My oldest sibling got adopted and wound up, I believe, in Arizona. My younger sibling was actually adopted with me. So I
Nice.
grew up with my biological brother. So it was cool and strange at the same time because me and my brother are biologically related, but we couldn't be more different as people.
Hmm.
So it was just kind of always odd because I always felt like the oddball out, even though I was the older one. And my brother is the more academic, and the he achieved more in that regard.
Hmm.
So I was always kind of like, I feel kind of out of place, but not out of place. Both my parents, my dad is a pilot, my mom is a surgeon, so they're very academic and very like this is the way it needs to be, and you need to go
Yeah.
to school, and you need to go to college, and you need to do this. So when I started making slightly different choices, I kind of had to learn how to do everything over again,
Hmm.
and I think that started a little bit of the self doubt as far as am I making the right choice?
I see it. I see it. I can definitely see where that comes from. Absolutely. Um, However, let's go ahead and talk about it. You're just a different person, man, and it's okay to be different. You know what I mean? It is completely okay. And now doing photography and going into the direction of being an entrepreneur, that's really the direction that you're leaning into. Have they been supportive of that background?
Uh, my dad is that very old school Italian, so they see things a very specific way. My mom, as she's seen my work progress, has realized I guess, the skill that I have in it and has
Hmm.
supported it. The ironic part of it is my mom was a model,
Wow.
and I'd maybe seen one or two photos of her in her modeling, but I always saw her as a surgeon and as a doctor. So for me, she like culturally, it was very odd because I'm Hispanic, but I was raised very white.
Hmm.
My dad's Italian, my mom is Norwegian. So culturally, I always felt kind of odd because again, I look a certain way, and then you look at my parents, and it's kind of like that's that's definitely not your biological kid. Just that's the best way to put it. But
Yeah, yeah,
my parents were, especially my mother, is very loving and very caring. And when it came to my art, she actually tried to get me into art school when I was going into high school, but I didn't like the school because they didn't have sports.
yeah. Mm.
So my mom was kind of like, "Oh, but this is a good fit," and I'm like, "Yeah, but I want to play football." My mom was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, but that's not gonna go." My mom looked at me. Obviously, I'm 5'6" on a good day, and
Mm.
my mom's kind of like, "You got to be a little bit taller, but keep chasing your dreams."
Oh man, that's crazy. So yeah, you've definitely had to grow up with a lot of pushback on your journey, your vision, your dream. And now you're really starting to unpack them. And the whole thing is, and you might have heard this before, but your time is coming, right? It's just that you had to go through a couple of different directions, little detours to really get to the main focus of it.
Yeah,
You've always enjoyed your art. Now here you are being nominated for your art. How amazing is that, right? Only 3 years fully focused in, and someone acknowledges your work. So that must definitely make you feel even more confident and want really, to take it to the next level. How are you feeling with this nomination right now?
it's honestly surreal, and it's one of those things like I'm gonna show up and be like, "Yeah, this is really happening." And
Hmm.
again, with my support system around me, they're kind of like, "Joe, that's a huge thing," and I'm like, "Is it?" I'm because again, I downplay it in my head, but I know that it's something big, and it's an honor just to even be considered for it. And I was surprised that they reached out and were like, "Oh, you've been nominated." And I'm like, "Who?" I'm like, "You have the right person." I'm like, I don't know what I did, but okay. Like, thank you.
What was your wife's response
My
when she
wife
found out?
is the excited one. She's always like, You're doing something really good," and she like jumps up and down, and I'm like, "Okay, like that's the reaction I'm
Oh,
supposed to have." But and
I
then my
love it.
kids, especially my middle daughter, she's the one that's always been my biggest cheerleader, even prior to being married to my wife. Like she's just the the one who's always behind me. And she's like, "Papa, you
Mhm.
can do it. Like you can do that." And it's supposed to be the other way around. I'm like, "Kid, you got to go do this. Like, what are you telling me I should do it?"
That's so cool, man. And we live to be role models to our children, especially through your background. I'm pretty sure you like, you know what? I don't want my kid to experience anything that I had to experience. So you don't live for you. This is not for you. It's for your child. So hearing that, I can only imagine it's a little touching on the other end. It's like, man, I'm here just trying to show you that you can go out and chase your dreams. And here it is, you're trying to encourage me, which is still cool and fulfilling. I can only imagine in that sense that you do have that now, because years back it didn't look as bright.
I
Is
mean,
that correct?
being a parent at 18, it kind of pulled the wind out of my sail in the regard of like everything now becomes about them, especially being adopted and things like that. It influenced my choices heavily because I didn't want to repeat what happened to me. And the idea of having to go through anything near that for my kids, like it terrified me. So it was kind of like, well, now I got to go get a job and I have to support my family and I need to do A, B, and C because that's priority. And I put a lot of what you would say your dreams in the back burner because I felt like they had to come first. And now
Hmm.
that they're at the ages that they're at, I've kind of pushed them on the way and they're up and moving on their own. And it's allowed me to relax and say, okay, I can make these choices. But again, being a parent at 18, it made me pull back pretty hard and say, like, well, this stuff doesn't matter anymore.
Mm, that's good stuff. Absolutely. But now here you are blessed, right? Because you were able to put your kids first. Um, but it is definitely tough. It is tough at 18 years old to become a parent and live the unknown, not knowing what what to expect next, right? So you're so fully focused in. Is that one of the reasons that did you go to college, by the way?
I was in college for, I played one college or one season of collegiate football, and I was up in Ohio. I had no family support up there. Again, I was miles from anybody.
Hmm.
And then I knew my oldest daughter was on the way, and it just kind of took my focus off of academics. And once I finished the season, I was just kind of like, I, I'm not going to go any further with this, and it's just this isn't reality. So I came back. I actually re-enrolled in Miami-Dade College. I finished the semester. I actually did decent, and then I got accepted into the fire college at Miami-Dade. I graduated from the fire college, and then about a year into that, I actually got hurt on a job, so that took firefighting off the table, and I had to restart at 22, 23. So it's been a journey up and down where I've kind of felt like I was going up, and then it just crashed right back down. And that definitely, that I think reset my mind quite a bit. Because again, going through the fire academy is not an easy thing for
Hmm.
anybody. I graduated and I felt like I achieved something and I was going to be something. And then obviously I had to still work inside of that because I already had my oldest daughter. I had married her mother within a year and a half of that. And then we were expecting another baby, my second daughter. So I felt like, well, I really got to like lock it in. And at the time I was working a job and then I got hurt. So that took that right back off the table.
So you went through some ups and downs for sure. For sure. There was some struggles there. Um, so you said you married her mom at a year and a half in. So
Hmm.
you've been married some years now.
Well, I'm on my second.
Got it, got it.
So
Okay. That's why you said her mother.
yeah,
Okay, got it.
I was with my children's mother for close to almost 11 years, and then things just kind of didn't work out, and it wasn't healthy for anybody. So the
Mhm.
best choice was just go our separate ways, and then that brought up other issues that had to be dealt with and handled. And again, when I said family wise, financially, like dealing with child support and that whole fun
Yeah, yeah,
game
yeah, yeah, yeah.
with the state and all that stuff, and making sure that everything I was doing was the right way and making sure that payments were on time and that didn't get messed up. But again, that took priority as far as consistency because doing photography and doing things that aren't always consistent is extremely scary when you have looming things that have to be taken care of or
Mhm.
there's repercussions.
Jojo, man, hats off to you, brother. I mean, I get it. It is all making sense now, and I appreciate you being so transparent and honest. And one thing that I really commend you for is how you still, even through the separation of you and their mom, that you show up and that you're a part of their life. And it goes back to you don't ever want to do what was done to you in a sense. And I think that is so huge. And I can only imagine why that can cause so much just sometimes even stress in your life, right? Because you want to be a part of the child's life. And now you're kind of going through a stage where it's like, I
You
got to
get
fight for this.
boundaries put on you that you didn't think would make any sense. And it's kind of like they want you to do this, but they also want you to do that. And you're like, how do you want me to do that inside of the system that they currently have? And again, that's avoiding political standpoints on it or how people
Mhm.
believe it, like it should be. But there's a lot of restrictions, especially in the state of Florida, with regard to parental agreements and fathers, because it's very mom heavy, is the best way that I could put it.
Mhm.
And it's just trying to figure out how to work inside of that system.
Mm. I don't wish that upon anyone. Just sa- just hear you saying that, man, in my heart, I have a child, and one thing I told my wife, before we decided to start a family was, whatever happens, because life happens, understand that we have to take care of our child. Now, things happen in life, and then the agreement changes, right? But
Yeah.
um,
Like, this
pretty sure
isn't
you have
what
that
we
same
spoke
agreement.
about. Like, this isn't even close. Like,
Pretty sure you have
no.
that same agreement. But no, man, I commend you as a man that is still present and still providing and still showing up. Put his dreams on the back. You Here you are now, man, living. What could be the rest of your life is photography, something that you started at a young age. And sometimes I always go back that you plant a seed that you don't even realize that is really you're watering, right? Every time you took another photo, you were watering that seed because you were just getting better and better and better, till someone called you out and said, hey bro, like, what are you doing? This is good stuff.
Yeah.
And then from there you realize that you had a whole, something really blossomed there, and then now you're really taking care of it and doing what your pieces, and then your wife is now helping you take care of that same baby. This is really what it is another baby
Yeah.
that you currently have. What are your goals for the photography business? What do you see yourself a year, that short term, and then what do you see yourself maybe 5 years from now in photography business?
I would say short term, it would be being a little more consistent with the actual photography work. I think I've improved as far as certain things that I wanted to, as far as editing and getting my work together and my workflow. Because I think that was one of my bigger issues when I first started is I didn't quite understand the bigger picture of a picture, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you get into photography, you just kind of say like, I just hit the button. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what else is there to do? Then there's understanding like lighting, composition. Because being self-taught, I didn't take formal training in it, where you kind of learn those little ins and outs of a photo,
Yeah.
and then learning editing. It took taking a photo and then a model saying, "Can you fix this or fix that?" And I'm kind of like, "How would I do that? Like that's your skin." Like, but I didn't realize there's programs that literally help you do that. And then now when I look at a photo, I can say, "Okay, this is how I take this out. This is how I fix this." And again,
Nice.
it's improving little by little with that for the short term and learning to get more consistent with it. Because I think
Mm-hmm.
my work is coming together where I have the look that I want, but
Yeah.
it's consistently getting it. As far as the long term, being a little more full time. Because currently, obviously, with responsibilities, I
Mm-hmm.
have to have a consistent income and have a full time job. So photography is not the forefront yet,
Yeah.
but I would say that's my goal because I enjoy it so much. It'd be you don't dread going to work when you enjoy doing whatever it is that you do, regardless of the job.
Yeah.
So having a job and then doing that, it kind of makes some photo shoots kind of go, do I really have the energy to do this? Like
Yeah.
you show up and people are excited and you're kind of like, yeah, this is after I worked an 80-hour week.
Yeah.
So, and then that would show up in my early work where I got better at balancing that out and then not overloading myself. Again, I go back to my boss because I'll schedule a photo shoot and then not realize I have something else going on. Again, I have 3 kids, so there's soccer, there's always something going on, and I'm like, I don't think I have anything that weekend, so I have to turn to her. I'm like, do we have something on this weekend? She's like, Joe, you have like 4 things. What are you doing? I'm like, oh, but I've already agreed to the photo shoot, so now I got to figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
So just getting outside of that.
I love that in between, you were saying the transition was not there yet, and continue to tell yourself that not there yet, but it's coming. It takes time, it takes dedication, it takes sacrificing. And I think that you're at those points in your life where you're doing that. You are making the sacrifices where you need to make them. You are trying to find the time, the consistency, the dedication to your craft. And within time, I think you start to see it slowly shift where you are a full-time photographer. I truly do believe it. And it's just really the backstory. When I hear the stories that you have on putting everything your kids first, I think that's really important, and you'll be blessed for those things. To know how humbled you are, that you're good and you don't know how good you are, right? I think you'll be blessed for that. And then just fine tuning everything. People don't get when you find something that you love. In your case, it was photography. You're still educating yourself, right? That's the important part, that you're still educating yourself, and that's why the price is coming into place. Have you ever gave someone a price and they were like, "Oh, that's a lot."
That I was a personal trainer for 6 years, and the
Okay.
biggest reason I got out of it was I'm not a used car salesman. Like I'm not one
Mhm.
of those people. My dad is one of those people that he could sell you your own foot and you wouldn't even know you were buying it. Like that's just how good he is, and I've always respected him on it. But I'm just not one of those people. And like working in a gym and then saying, well, you have to sell this amount of supplements and this package and that package. I'm one of those people like this is what I'm offering, and then when they turn around and try to haggle it, I'm kind of like I it makes me really uncomfortable because I just don't like to argue with people in that regard. And it's not arguing, but it gets uncomfortable because again, you give them a starting point, and then they always try to walk it back,
Mhm.
and you're kind of like, I'm already low or lower, so the
Mhm.
fact that you're trying to knock me even lower, it's kind of a slap in the face, and it's trying to take the emotion out of that because I can honestly say I'm an emotional person as a whole.
Mhm.
So it was trying to teach myself like don't take it personal because everybody wants to save a dollar. Like I don't blame them, but again, it's not taking it in the offensive. Like you're trying to say my work isn't worth what other people are charging,
Yeah.
and then learning what other people are charging and what the medium is and how to price yourself. That was the hardest thing for me, and it's still something that I struggle with because people are like, "Oh, how much for this?" And I go, "Okay, this much." They're like, "Okay." They're like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that seems logical in my head." And then I've had friends of mine tell me like, "Joe, you're undercharging."
Mhm.
Like I mentioned earlier, I have a couple friends that have paid what people should pay, and that was what woke me up. Because
Yeah.
again, they're like, "How much for this?" And I'm like, $50, $80. Like it's just I get to do it. Like I didn't care. And they're like, "No, Joe, you're like severely undercutting yourself."
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
business aspect of it is really hard for me to figure out in certain things, and that's one of them. Is saying like, "Oh, this is worth this much," and knowing that it's that much.
That's cool, man. It takes time. I have a friend that's a videographer, and I used to get on him for those exact reasons. Because first it started with free work, then it started with, okay, I'm doing this. I'm like, but you're not putting in the editing time, the drive time, you know what I mean, like all that.
Yeah,
What I had to realize is, especially in your case, as a dad, your time is very valuable. So you have to put the time on, the price on your time as well, especially when you're educating yourself. You're no longer a rookie at this. You're now a pro at this because you went and you did your work. You were learn how to edit a photo. You learn how to lighting. You learn all these different things. So yeah, your price has to go up every single time that you're able to learn some new thing. Um, Same thing for a barber, right? My barber was doing $10 haircuts. Now I'm paying $50 for a haircut. Why? Because he educated himself, because he got himself that booked where he either had to raise his price or he was going to go crazy. So you'll get to that point, and I love that you were just so honest to say, hey, I'm still trying to work out these business things. Like, I don't have it down packed. I'm still going through it, and that your friends are kind of showing you that in the sense of, I'm not paying you what you just asked me, I'm paying you more. And sometimes that is the light. That is the
Yeah,
light to going back to that knowing your worth, understanding what your worth is. It's so much more sometimes than we put on us. And I think it's that the background, our story is just we just want to have someone else. All right,
yeah,
we just want to give back, and sometimes while that may be great, it also hinders us, because we have this loving and caring heart. So now sometimes people take advantage of it, so forth, so on. But within time, man, Jojo, I'm just happy that you really have taken the first steps of entrepreneurship. I think entrepreneurship is a lovely thing. It's not for everyone. I would definitely say that. It is very hard. You lose sleep. You lose yourself in the mix of it sometimes. You could also lose friendships, family, just because sometimes your vision can be seen by somebody else, and you
mhm.
have to separate yourself from it. And you're going to see that if you haven't seen that already, you're going through
Oh,
this
I've seen
this
it a couple
journey
times.
that is, even when you think that, why are my friends not supporting me, and understand that your friends are not going to support you because it's not their vision, and it's okay. So these are just some of the things that I've been able to experience. And I want to kind of just drop onto you. So as you go through them, you just remember, like, okay, I remember someone said that. But this is great, man. This is good interview. I always love to see another fellow individual has been adopted and where we get to be in life. I always wake up and just thankful and blessed to be in the opportunities that we're in. To know that we can wake up and be the best parents that we can, that we can wake up and do what we love. And in your case, that was photography. Is there anything else that you would love to tap into, other than photography, or right now photography is just that thing?
I I was kind of split in regard because again I have an artistic side as far as like
Mhm,
actual art, which is
mhm,
what's behind me, and I love doing it. It gave me such a way to like zone out,
mhm,
but I had to kind of decide: do I want to focus on getting better at photography or keep doing the art? And again, with COVID, it kind of made that choice for me because art is very in person because you have to sell it.
mhm.
So, and again, I ran out of studio space in my house. My wife loves my work. It's literally everywhere in my house, but we ran out of studio space. And then not being able to go to art meets and things like that where I could actually sell my art pieces kind of made that choice. Whereas photography, it's extremely digital. So the only space it takes up is my hard drive.
Mhm.
And then it was something that I could work at without it taking up more than it needed to. Whereas art, it takes time. Like that one painting behind, I don't know where I'm pointing,
Right there, right
right
there.
here,
Yeah.
it takes 2 days just for the paint to dry properly. And then I do a resin coating, and that takes another day and a half. So it was like each piece took almost a week.
Wow.
So again, I love doing it. I still do pieces here and there just kind of as a hobby, but I kind of zeroed in on photography as a thing that I want to do. And I enjoy again doing art, but it's just not the long term.
It's a different form of art, I would say.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
because
something that I
ideally,
consider, but
if you guys go to his page, for you guys that are watching, and you go see, let me put that up there. It's art. You go onto that page, and all of it is art. From the way that you create your content to the picture itself, it is very artistic, and that goes also back to you always wanted to be an artist, and you are an artist. You're just not the artist you thought you probably were
yeah, it
going
just
to go into that
I didn't
direction,
see it
but
that same way.
yeah, yeah, and it's like when someone says for me, you're an artist, you're creative. I'm like, I don't create anything, but this is creating, right? This
Yeah,
is this is the form of art that we have. So sometimes our vision is so stuck on just one direction, not realizing it's a huge, you know, just a huge form of art is what we do. And who knows, maybe one day you go back to your actual art in a different form that you can produce that. But yeah, that's cool. Know that you were always into art. Now you're just doing art in a different level, digital, because you don't have the space, so you had to find out how do you do that. Do you find it therapeutic for you to actually do art?
Yeah, and again, when I started it, it was kind of a hobby thing. And my wife is one of those people, she'll let me start doing something, and she's like, "Joe, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Just an idea. Let me see what comes of it." And the paintings was one of those where I saw it, and I was like, "I think I could do that."
Yeah.
And I used to even make custom paracord bracelets just because I thought they were cool, and I'm like, "I think I could do that." And I'd go on YouTube, and then I think the internet. And I had this conversation with my daughter the other day. Is that the internet is such a learning tool that people don't realize what's right in front of them. Whereas, like when I was a kid, you had to go to the library, you had to find a specific book, and you had to like skim through it and find how to do something. Whereas
Hmm.
the internet, you go to Google, and it's infinite. The possibilities to even attempt something is infinite. Like, give it a shot. If it doesn't work, then try something else. You don't lose anything by giving it a shot. And that's something I try to like drill into my kids is that especially my oldest and my youngest, they're the dreamers. So they're kind of all over the place and I'm like, it's cool to dream, but you gotta pull something, see if it works, and then go to the next thing. Because if you have too much in front of you, you get lost. Whereas my middle daughter, she's very driven. She knows what she wants. She'll grab it and say, "This is what I'm doing." She's the one that did dance, and she's like, "I liked it." Then it got to a point where she's like, "I don't think this is going to work anymore." She went to the next thing. Whereas again, my oldest was, "But I like doing all of it." And it's like, kid, you got to focus.
So now, I guess my question would be, knowing your kids and how you speak on their dreams, or sometimes going for it, not going for it, what do you push on them? School, or do you what? How does that come? What's that conversation look like now?
Because of the way that I was raised, and then again, my family being extremely academic. Because again, my mom's a surgeon, so she
Hmm.
went to school for forever. It felt like I'm like, you were in school longer than you were alive. Like, how does that make sense? Like, I can't do that. Whereas my dad, by the time he was 15, was doing what he dreamed of always doing and being a pilot. So it was a weird, I don't know the way to put it, but you have like one that's been chasing his dream since he was 15.
Hmm.
And then the other one that went through this strenuous, long process of getting to her dream. So it was trying to find the balance in that. And with my kids, I've always been very open minded and I try not to shut doors in their face
Hmm.
where it's, oh, Poppy, I want to do this. And I'm like, okay. And I try to give them the whole picture of what that may entail. Whereas, like, my oldest daughter is very good at art. She even goes to an art school. And it was funny because I'd look at her grades and she has to take two art classes. One of the art classes, she has an A. The other art class, not even close to an A. That's just the best way to put it. And I'm like, kiddo, like, why is one art class an A and the other one not? She's like, oh, I just don't like that type of art. And her response makes sense. But to me as a parent, I'm like, how does that make sense? I'm like,
Yeah.
no, because what I tried to show her and try to explain to her is there's going to be a part of things that you want to do that you're not going to like to do. Like for example, photography. I love doing photography. Do I like the business aspect of it? No. And I'm like, that has to go with it though.
Yeah.
And learning to be okay with doing certain things that you don't necessarily like to get what you want.
Hmm.
And that's what I try to teach my kids is that there's going to be a part of what you really, really want that you're not necessarily going to like. And that's just a part of it. But it
Yeah.
has to outweigh what you want to do. Now, if what you don't want to do is outweighing what you want to do, that's kind of showing you that your choice isn't necessarily there, whatever the topic may be,
Yeah. Yeah, and then work hard enough so that the thing that you don't like to do, you can then pass it on to someone
to
else.
somebody
But for
else.
the time being, you have to do it. You know what I mean? That's just part of the business, and part of really any business, or even the actual 9 to 5 job. Sometimes you got to go and do things you don't want to do to get to where you want to be. So that's a very good life lesson that is being taught at this age. With respect to time, man, you're 45 minutes in, almost 45 minutes in. I know you're like in awe, like, what? This is 45 minutes already. Yes, 45 minutes, Jojo. Um, do you know a know your worth moment, man, that allowed you to know And I don't even want to put it into the photographer, but that know your worth moment that allowed you to know that you were going to be the type of dad that you were, that you weren't going to give up on your kids, and you just wanted to make sure that they do not get the life that was handed to you.
Um, I think when I was my first day of the fire academy, like to put it as like a moment that like it woke me up as an adult. And again, I was 19 turning 20. I wasn't necessarily an adult, but in my mind, I was on my own. I had to take care of things. I had to do whatever. That first day of the fire academy was so brutal for me. I remember getting home and my daughter walked out and she was only maybe a year and a half, I think, by that point, and just breaking down. Like I just picked her up and she was smiling like she didn't see anything wrong with the world. And I was so broken by what happened that day because the first day they send you through this physical training and they try to kick the crap out of you. Like they want to see if you really want it,
Mm-hmm.
to the point where like, and I was in pretty good shape because I had just finished college football and like I was dizzy. Like it was bad. Like it was bad. And what the academy did is they pulled me and two other people and they put us in front of the class and they said, these are the three that are going to make everybody fail. And that feeling, I don't even know how to fully explain it, but it shattered my world and what I thought I was like capable of. Because I was like, I'm a tough guy, I can handle a lot.
Yeah.
But being put out in front of everybody and then going through that and then seeing my daughter was kind of like, this is what that's for. And then when I graduated, for me, it was like I proved everybody wrong. And I've always tried to show my kids no matter what happens, it's what you believe your body can physically do or your mind can do. And then everything else will fall in place after. But you have to believe in what you're doing. Even though I don't always have that confidence, I try to show them that level of it. Even though in my head, I'm going like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? But that specific moment, I think, was what showed me that no matter what I'm going through, their smiles, their giggles, their achievements make all of that worth it.
That was deep, Jojo. I didn't expect you to go that deep, Jojo. That was so good, man. That was so good, and I definitely appreciate it. It was a very good know your worth moment, and I can't wait to meet you in person in Miami, and continue the much success that you have coming your way. Continue to believe in your vision, yourself. You are very different. You knew that since you were a young age, right? You are very different, and it's okay to be different. And anyone that's watching, it's okay to be different. Some people would like to put us in a category of what we should look like or what we should be, how we should sound, how we should move. However, when you're just different, you're just different, and there's nothing that can really change that. So continue to live yourself authentically. You chase your dreams, believe in those dreams, even when someone else doesn't believe in those dreams, and that's really what we got here through Jojo's message. So we definitely thank you for your time, guys. This has been Know Your Word TV, another dope interview. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, you definitely want to subscribe to the channel and go back and watch some more interviews. We're not just talking about success because social media does a very good job highlighting that. We want to know the story, the things that people actually have to go through on a day-to-day basis, to continue to maintain where they're at today. And we hear that every single interview. And thank you to the Concert Creators Experience for the collaboration. We've had some tremendous people come and stop by and share that story with us. So until next time, guys, my name has been Ephraim. This has been JoJo, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Have a good one.